you ever felt like you're too sensitive? Like you can sense someone's mood before they even say a word? You're the peacemaker, the nice one, the person who keeps everyone happy, even when it leaves you exhausted. If that sounds familiar, maybe you're not as good as you think. Maybe you're being subtly used, and no one, not even you, has noticed. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And for empaths, those who live by reading others' emotions, that hidden force is often silent exhaustion, unspoken anger, and a deep emptiness when they're finally alone. In this video, I'll show you what really happens when an empath stops trying to please everyone. It's not a psychology lecture or a philosophy lesson. It's a transformation, a painful, necessary unraveling, so you can reclaim the self that was stolen from you long ago. And maybe, for the first time in your life, you'll know what it truly feels like to be yourself. Carl Jung called the process of becoming one's true self individuation. But let's be honest, it's not a peaceful journey. It's not a quiet meditation in the woods. It's a quiet collapse, the breakdown of roles, of strategic kindness, of smiles worn like armor. Many believe empathy is a gift, but in truth it often begins as a finely trained wound from childhood. Children don't become sensitive because they were flooded with love. They become sensitive because they had to read the room to stay safe. In a chaotic home, knowing when your mother is about to explode or when your father goes silent isn't intuition, it's survival. And over time, that survival instinct gets praised by the world with words like considerate, understanding, kind. But really, it's a very early form of self-abandonment. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." We grow up carrying that wound, living like emotional radars for others while being blind to our own inner world. We can feel when someone else is sad, but have no idea why we feel so heavy. We can comfort everyone, yet never hear our own cry for help. That's why individuation isn't about finding yourself. It's about peeling away every disguise you wore just to be loved. And the most painful realization? For so long we weren't really living. We were merely reacting to survive. When you've spent your whole life adjusting yourself just to keep the peace, you start to believe that's the price of love. That if you're patient enough, kind enough, good enough, someone will finally stay. There's a toxic misunderstanding woven into the way many people love, that love must be earned, through patience, endurance, even self-erasure. But constant sacrifice doesn't create love, it only creates depletion. Every time you swallow a real emotion to keep the peace, smile while you're hurting, or say yes when your heart says no, you lose a small piece of yourself. At first, it feels like nothing, just a little compromise, not worth the tension. But piece by piece, moment by moment, you wake up one day realizing you're still alive, but no longer present in your own life. Carl Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Awakening hurts, and one of the most painful truths is this: many relationships survive not because of love, but because of one person's tolerance. An unspoken contract, you sacrifice, I accept you." But real love doesn't need to be negotiated through extreme kindness. It grows from authentic presence, when you can say no without fearing abandonment, when you can show up as your full, messy, radiant self, and still be met with tenderness. Love doesn't ask you to shrink so others can feel comfortable. It doesn't need you to disappear. It needs you to show up fully, truthfully, courageously. Because when you trade pieces of yourself just to be loved, what you get in return isn't love, it's mutual dependency. And worse than being hurt is living dishonestly because you're terrified of losing your place in someone's heart. Here's the heartbreaking truth. Many acts of kindness don't come from love. They come from fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of not being needed. Fear that if you stop being useful, you'll disappear. Carl Jung warned about this with a haunting truth. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. We think we choose to be good people, but often we're just reenacting an old survival pattern, a reflex born from wounds we've never named. Do you help because you're kind, or because you fear they'll leave if you don't? Are you always gentle or afraid that anger will make you unlovable? We grow up in a society that praises selflessness but rewards compliance, and so the fear of losing love puts on the mask of virtue, turning you into a good person but never a real one. True morality doesn't grow from fear. It's born the moment you can stand firmly in your truth, even if it means disappointing someone you care about. And when you start to realize that your kindness might just be fear in disguise, a quiet question begins to echo inside you. If everything I do is to be accepted, then which part of me have I been refusing to accept myself? Carl Jung called this part the shadow. But contrary to what many believe, the shadow isn't evil. It's the real part of you that was buried because you thought it made you harder to love. It's the anger you never voice, the needs you always place second, the exhaustion you hide behind an "I'm fine" smile. Everything that's been labeled selfish, too sensitive, too complicated, gets quietly pushed into the basement of your psyche. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." No one becomes awakened by thinking only of the light. We grow when we face the darkness within, not to fight it, but to understand and integrate it. Your shadow is the part you once abandoned just to be accepted, but it doesn't return to punish you. It returns to remind you you cannot be whole while living as a censored version of yourself. Sometimes, embracing your anger, the one emotion you were taught to fear, is the first act of real self-love. A love that doesn't need permission, because the shadow isn't just a vault for weakness. It also holds the power you were once told was too dangerous to have. And within it lies something deeply misunderstood: your anger. We're often taught that healing begins with forgiveness, that love means being soft, patient, and endlessly understanding. But Carl Jung, who spent his life studying the darkness of the human psyche, saw it differently. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Awakening doesn't begin with gentleness. It begins with pain and with anger. The anger of realizing you've been subtly used for far too long. The anger of seeing your kindness taken for granted instead of appreciated. The anger of remembering how many times you said "it's okay" when what you really wanted to scream was "what about me?" That anger isn't toxic, it's sacred. It's the fire that reclaims your boundaries. It's the voice of your truest self rising after years of being silenced. Anger is the soul's first act of rebellion, the moment you stop enduring to be accepted and start living to be respected, even if that means someone else's comfort must crumble. And maybe it's only when you allow yourself to be honestly angry that you begin to love yourself, without apology. But awakening through anger is only the beginning. You can't stay there forever. Because after the word's enough, after the boundaries are built, after the endurance ends, comes a quiet emptiness. And in that silence, you face a deeper fear. If I stop pleasing everyone, who will still stay? Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that privilege isn't cheap. You might lose a few people, the ones who only loved the version of you that kept them comfortable. The ones who stayed not because of who you are, but because of the role you played in their story. And that loss hurts, because it strikes at the most primal human need, to be loved. Yet every awakened person eventually meets this paradox. Freedom doesn't come from being loved. It comes from no longer needing love to feel worthy of being alive. When you stop bargaining pieces of yourself just to feel close to someone, you may find yourself alone, but for the first time, it's a loneliness with dignity. You begin to realize the ones who remain aren't there because you're easy to be around. They're there because they truly see you, and those people, though few, are enough to teach you this truth. Authenticity won't give you more people, but it will make you lose less of yourself. When you're no longer afraid of losing love for being real, something powerful begins to unfold. You stop trying to be the savior, because you finally understand for most of your life, you weren't truly helping people, you were just trying to be loved by saving them. Carl Jung once said, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." And the first thing you must accept is this: you're hurting too. You're not the healer, you're someone learning how to heal yourself. Many empaths unconsciously turn helping others into a strategy to escape their own emptiness. They rescue, soothe, and fix, not because others truly need it, but because they can't bear the silence of doing nothing. But help that comes from emptiness always carries expectation, a quiet hope to be seen, to be appreciated, to be loved in return. And when that doesn't happen, it turns into disappointment, resentment, and pain. True giving only happens when your heart has stopped bleeding, when your help is no longer a transaction but an overflow, not because you need to feel useful, but because you are so full that generosity becomes natural. That's no longer the act of a savior, it's the quiet presence of someone whole, someone who no longer uses others as a reason to exist, and maybe that's the real gift you can offer the world. When you stop helping in order to be loved, and start loving without needing to help, you enter a new state of being, true presence. You are no longer a shadow in someone else's story, no longer a function, but a full human being with boundaries, depth, and worth, even in your silence. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But every privilege has its price. You'll have to leave behind your familiar roles, the easygoing kind one, the polite one, the one who never bothers anyone. All the qualities that once helped you feel accepted now reveal themselves as golden chains. Yet in exchange, you reclaim what was once stolen, your own presence. And if all of this is true, then why do we keep sacrificing ourselves just to be called a good person?"